Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Yep. Hello there. Welcome to the program. Let's see, the date, April 27, 2022. I can't believe the lilacs are. I have to tell you, I was walking the dog last night, and the air was just perfumed with lilac. And the summer, this is the part of spring that just blows you away. The flowering trees and my gosh, drink it in. So gorgeous and so fleeting. So I just wanted to say that was like this joyous moment. Sometimes we fail to, stop and smell the flowers. So, I did get some sleep last night. Phew. I don't know what that means, except that I feel better than I did yesterday. So let's see if my head's working any better. That remains to be seen, actually. I don't know. I don't feel like I have a lot, and that's because, to talk about, that's because the same subjects seem to be there confronting us, tugging at our sleeves every day. And none of them are particularly ones that you want a sunny morning spend your time with. When there's lilacs to smell, what do you want to talk about Vladimir effing Putin for? Or the Republican Party? Oh, God, and really, God, we're appealing to you. God, you just heard was a voice in the wilderness. I got this from, I'm just apropos of absolutely nothing here, but Kurt sent me a little hitter from Twitter. More on that later. And somebody posted this: if Batman was real, I want to say that grammatically correct, it would be were real. if Batman, which is odd, I admit, this is why people don't learn grammar, because Batman is a single being and was is the single verb. But if you put an if in front of Batman, then all of a sudden was is not the correct verb, but were. Like, one that came right to my mind is the tune from Fiddler on the Roof, If I Were a Rich Man. And is it if I were? Is it correct? Or is it if I was a rich? No, it's correct. If I were a rich man. But you wouldn't normally say I were. You would say I was. So this is why most people, I suspect, just let those kind of grammar rules go by the boards. Because, if you think about it, those kinds of exceptions do seem rather silly. Some of us really have those rules in our heads, and then some of us really get bothered. Shout out to you, Pat. When people don't adhere to the rules. Anyway, back to this little tweet, and I'll read it as is. If Batman was real, he'd be the world's least weird billionaire. And I mean, I actually was thinking that. First of all, I didn't know Batman was a billionaire. There you have it. And, I don't think there's any doubt that it would be pretty hard to maintain a sense of normal personality if you were an extraordinarily rich and powerful person, because everything changes. And your sense of self changes to the point where I think it would be very hard I can't even imagine it. I mean, it's sort of like if you were like a huge celebrity. I mean, people that live up there in those upper regions because of power, money, celebrity, any of those things, they are experiencing life in a different way than most. But they're still subject to certain things. They're mortal. They have, one would imagine, all of the same emotional content. They can be happy or sad, but a lot of rules don't apply. And I think when rules don't apply to a person, the person invariably changes, and not for the better. I remember, name names, when a friend got a big promotion, so that he was about to become a big celebrity. And because I knew him and liked him, I felt like I would be losing him. And there was a certain amount of truth in that. And I said, please, don't believe your own PR. Don't believe what I meant. All of the breathless and gushy stuff that now people will say about you or write about you. Because the minute you start, the minute someone starts doing that, and I think it's almost impossible to resist, they don't go into a better place. Which is why, I guess, all these billionaires are weird or vile people. They might have been vile to begin with because maybe there is something already in a personality that aspires to have it all. By that, I mean all the money, all the power, to just keep accumulating more and more. Not, here again, if you were to say to them, but you don't need it. There are so many people who really need a little teeny bit of what you are just voraciously acquiring. I mean, if you stop and think about that, why don't you just, relax? But see, that's not what's going on. It's a huge ego and a desire to dominate. And, I mean, obviously, no person of a certain level of wealth could make a moral argument that they deserve it. I often hear people who have very little. They're the ones who always say, I don't begrudge Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. I don't begrudge anybody who has made a success of themselves. More power to them, they say. And that's the kind of mantra you hear a lot from people who are establishmentarians, who are conservatives, who are Republicans. More power to them. And I always think how self-defeating of you to have that, to have that point of view. How generous of you to take some measure of pleasure in this person's oversized success, as you see it. Because that person you are lauding. Sorry, having trouble figuring out how to pronounce that all of a sudden. Lauding. Doesn't for 1 minute consider being in the same way generous. Ooh. I'm sorry. This is what happens when I've slept. My mind is just, please forgive me. But the worship of money and the sense that in this culture, money is value in every sense of the term. People with it are more valued. People without it are devalued. Stop and think if you lived in a culture in which something else had that kind of value placed on it, that our culture places on money. Imagine if it were something, how silly, as generosity. Okay. What if generosity were valued like money is? Who would be the people that we celebrated? Who would be our celebrities? Who would be role models? How would it impact the way we live our lives? And I guess I must be speaking against human nature, because humankind has been around for some time. And I don't know that generosity has ever been deemed that kind of a value in any culture. I mean, lip service is paid to it. But when push comes to shove in any culture, it's power and money that are valued. And that's why people chase it. And too bad for us. Too bad for us. Really. I will never understand. I will never understand how we've gotten it so wrong. so wrong about what is important. Okay, I have a caller. I think yeah. Hello?
Hello.
Hi.
Yes. Hi. Hey,
Hi.
it would be great, but it'll never happen if we had a system that didn't allow this kind of wealth to control it to some extent where everybody had a fair shake in it, but we don't have.
You
we have a
commie!
System.
You sound like a
Friggin'
communist.
system that caters to people like that. And then another thing, people say, well, I can't begrudge somebody that makes that kind of money. I mean, I do, because how they make the money. They use people. They actually kill people getting the money, too. There's so many ways, if you look at with the environment and everything, So don't even go there with the old, well, you shouldn't be jealous of them. It's not that. It's how they get the money. You know how they get there. They're crooks is what they are. They generally are crooks, or they're lucky. But it's nothing else. And like you say, the value of it is ridiculous. But you know what?
Yeah.
I got a new slogan for Pennsylvania. Come to Pennsylvania. Enjoy the seasons. You might even enjoy them in one day. I really.
Right.
We get all 4 seasons in one day.
Yeah. It can snow in the morning and be.
So you could spend the weekend here and enjoy all 4 seasons.
That's a good one. That's a
Take
good one.
Take a plane, come for the weekend, and you'll enjoy all 4 seasons. I mean,
maybe that's why that landscape company that Rudy Giuliani did the famous press conference in front of in Philadelphia, which is in Pennsylvania, was called the Four Seasons Landscaping Company because, all 4 seasons in one day.
And people that don't believe we have climate change has got their head in the sand. I mean, they are nuts.
Yeah.
If you don't think there's something going on weird, then you're just, I don't know. You can't be helped. That's all.
No. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
You didn't do anything. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep.
Bye. Bye. Oh, gosh. Yeah. Well, it's just the way it is. People valued for their money. It's why people who are seen as laborers, working class, are somehow, looked down on by people who put on suits and work behind desks and shuffle paper. Well, they used to shuffle paper. Now they sit in front of computers. But it's because it's actually not true. A lot of people who work with their hands now make more money than people who sit in front of computers. I mean, in many respects, the new drudge class are people stuck in cubicles working on computers. It's just I don't know. We are a piece of work. Piece of work. Okay, so I did. Oh, here's something. I'm sorry. I have not. I'm going to be all over the place. I did not know this, but I always think I'm on top of everything. I read so much, but I have to admit I've slacked off a little bit, and since I've truly stopped watching news, I bet I'm missing stuff. But you have to give me this. When you hear me pontificating about this, that, or the other, it's just coming out of my own head. I'm not parroting. I probably, because I read pundit stuff. But if you watch these guys on TV speaking with authority, whether you're consciously doing it or not, the very fact that they're on the television and have been put in the position of appearing to be an expert, sometimes they are, you defer to them. And I'm sick of it. I want to trust my own judgment. And I, over the years, have found that I'm reading things right about as much as they are. Times better than they are. Times not. But if you trust yourself, I had a disquieting conversation a few days ago with a guy who works with his hands, who does the kind of work, and he actually pointed this out, that people look down on him. And he's also the guy who said to me that he doesn't begrudge any incredibly rich person what they've got. But he clearly is just the class. I mean, he's a hardworking guy. I know he is. He's a nice guy. But this is a full-on Trump voting, Biden hating. And he was talking and talking and talking, and I did not have the energy to counter anything he said. I just listened, growing increasingly despairing. And I think he knows who I am. I think he had to know that I didn't agree with a lot of what he said. Every once in a while, he'd say something I could agree with, and I'd say, yeah, I agree with that. Thank God. But then it would quickly veer off someplace else. And after a while, I literally became so exhausted that I started physically backing away, trying to get away. And he kept coming forward. And I really, it became a dance that I thought, geez, and then he got a little too close. You know how people get too close? And I really began to feel uncomfortable in many ways. And I was trying so hard to do what I know we have to do, which is talk to each other, but I didn't trust myself to be able to. And there was also a voice in my head that said, you're not going to change his mind. I mean, he was quoting Newsmax. That makes Fox look like Mother Jones. And boy, I heard it all from him. And it's fascinating what the images these people have in their heads, what they hold on to. And he said to me, you know, in less than 2 years, wrong about that because it's a little more than 2 years. He says, Biden will be out. Putin will still be there, he said. Putin is going. And then all this pro-Putin stuff. Oh, my God. I mean, you heard Rand Paul, maybe, if you watched the news yesterday, right? That had to have made the news. No? Not. Anthony Blinken, the Secretary of State, had to testify in front of some Senate committee. And I saw it because it was on Twitter. There was a Rand Paul literally saying to Blinken something, you know, the pro-Putin stuff. The we're wrong to be helping Ukraine stuff. Ukraine is not a country. It belongs to the Russians, essentially. And that's what this guy was saying. And there's a lot of people who believe that. All the stuff that Fox and the right-wing disinformation machine put out has been swallowed whole by, I don't know, I used to say 30% of Americans, and now I have to tell you, it's up to 40 easily. 40%. They're gaining ground, seems to me. And what I was thinking after that I should have said to him, because he was saying, you got to let, none of our business, you let Putin take Ukraine. It's as good as theirs anyway. It belonged to them. And I later, of course, thought, well, why couldn't you then just have said to him, well, but by that, I mean, then would you agree that the United States belongs to England? So they should just be able to come over here and take us too. They did used to rule here. And then we did what the Ukrainians are doing. We fought against them and got our independence. But, you know, why? Nobody ever. I don't know. And then I thought, all these people that are swallowing all of this, that it's none of our business and we never should. And he said, look at the last time we were. He started talking about that airplane in Afghanistan with those poor people hanging off the wings as it, you know, our ignominious departure from Afghanistan. And we should never. I'm sorry. It's so upsetting to talk to people who don't know history. They just have been poor. You know, they got these heads that have had just misinformation and lies just poured into them by people who know better, but who are master manipulators of human psychology. Really, really upsetting. Sorry. Okay, I got to stop this. I'm just babbling. I babbled for a half hour. What's going on? Maybe it'd be better if I didn't sleep. Here's these Republicans are freaking me out because it's quite clear. I mean, we've said this before, but you know how there will not be in the 2024 election debates between Republican and Democrat. There will not. Because they can't there won't be debates moderated by the people who've always moderated them. Because those people deal with facts. And so the Republicans refuse to be now party to any kind of a platform in which they would be confronted by a so-called neutral party but that's not true. But that didn't happen. And that's why here in Pennsylvania, the Republican candidates, right, have said that they will only do debates with people chosen that they choose to moderate so that they'll be able to trade all of this craziness about the election being stolen, that they'll be able to have their lies not be called out and treated as facts. And here's my concern. How do you prevail in an argument against people who just say whatever they need to say? I mean, it doesn't have to be based in fact. The Republicans have given up on reality some time ago, and they feed their base a bunch of nonsense, and the base swallows it. And the greatest crime in this world of theirs is telling the truth. You get in trouble when you tell the truth. Ask Lynn Cheney. Ask the kid who said the emperor wears no clothes. If you tell the truth, you'll be taken out. You have got to parrot the lies. And it's frightening. Because how do we, the people who are still trafficking in truth and fact, how do you confront? I mean, I know we've seen this growing and growing and growing over the years, but it is now, it's a done deal. Two separate universes, two separate histories, two separate set of facts. I mean, I just saw something today about some guy in Oklahoma. He's a Republican. I think he was their Republican state chair of Oklahoma. He's running for the Congress. He's going to be a great member of Congress in this current Republican Party. And to cheers from the crowd, he said that Dr. Fauci should be put in front of a firing squad. Cheers. Now, why should Dr. Fauci be put in front of a fire? You have to immerse yourself in their reality to see how this good man ends up in front of firing squad. And this same candidate went on to, with cheers, saying that we're fighting a system that stole the election and nobody's been held accountable. How? And they accept this. It is known through polling that the vast majority of people who say they are Republicans truly believe that we stole the election. Never mind, that does put truth on its head. That's what they do. It's what they've done. And they are all trafficking in it now. And they are all shamelessly trafficking in it now. And you have this other recent thing with Kevin McCarthy, God help us. Where did I read today that somebody said, this is the Republican Party gave us McCarthyism, the 50s, which was a dark chapter in this nation's history. And like so many things Republicans bring to us, they're gifts to our country. It was based on lies, fear, intimidation, and the ruining of people's lives, and the attempt to undermine basic institutions of our nation. That's what Joe McCarthy wrought in the 50s. Now we have this other Republican McCarthy, and he is fighting to hang on to the position of being the next Speaker of the House, which will put him 2 heartbeats away from the presidency. And this is a man who has shown himself to be absolutely without honor. Willing within a 5-minute period, 2-minute period of literally reversing himself. And then telling you that he hasn't. Just lying, bald-faced, despite the fact that there might even be, and are, recordings or video of him saying exactly what he tells you to your face he has not said. These people don't blink. And somewhere I saw that we're heading into a new kind of Republican-inspired McCarthyism. And it's what I've been talking about for the last 5-10 minutes. This up is down, black is white. Don't believe your lying eyes. Believe everything we're telling you. And this new McCarthyism also traffics, obviously, in fear and intimidation. Put Fauci up against the wall and shoot him. The new Republican gift to this country. It's new McCarthyism. And this is a threat, obviously, to our nation. That last little dance with the former McCarthyism for the Republican Party did not destroy the Republican Party, as obviously we know. And those of us who just assumed when this dance with insanity began, with QAnon and all that stuff, that there's no way the Republicans could survive this, I suspect we should not be so certain. And for those who want, me to be less depressing, tell me how. Being somebody who traffics in reality. How? Hey, something I saw that I found really interesting was one of my favorite members of Congress, Jamie Raskin, apparently was on MSNBC, because I read about it, said, I just want to, I guess I think some of you think, I bet she really watches him. I don't. But I saw he was on a show last night, and he was talking about, the January 6th committee and what they're finding out, and that he found like the most, I don't know what he said exactly, scary or thing. The fact that Vice President Pence, after he'd been, gotten out of the Senate chamber, was told by Secret Service to get in the car, the armored limo, and they'd get him out of there. And he said, "I'm not getting in the car." Now, we knew that from, very soon after January 6th, that information was out there. And it was chilling, because I don't know how you interpreted that. At the time, I interpreted it that he certainly knew what Trump was trying to do, because he was a major figure in what they were trying to do. And he was going against it. And my sense is he wasn't willing to get in the car, because he was as afraid of the Secret Service as he was of the hordes screaming to hang him that were behind him in the Capitol. That my sense was Pence saw himself like, which way am I most likely to survive here? And I don't know, until he answers those questions, we're not quite going to know. But it does turn out that he knew that the Secret Service guy, and this was a very strange thing, that in the Trump White House, the Secret Service was politicized in a way that it had not been, because the senior Secret Service guy in the White House was also a political aide to Trump. This had never happened. So Not that that's the guy who told him to get in. But hence not getting in that car suggests that he did not trust what they were going to do with him. And here's the other quote that I have now seen that Raskin, I guess, put out there. I'm not getting in the car, Tim. I trust you, Tim, but you're not driving the car. If I get in that vehicle, you guys are taking off. I'm not getting in the car. So if the head of the Secret Service at that time was on Trump's side, he would have been part of the coup. And that's what Pence must have thought. They're trying to get rid of me. I mean, this thing, the more you look at it, the darker, more frightening it gets, because you see how close, really, how close they came. Mills. Okay, this is something easy. Back to the grammar stuff. Ellen writes, in my earlier life as a copy editor, this was the rule that we followed. If I were is used when the situation is not true, is impossible or impossible. Like if I were you, if I were a bird. Thus, if I were a rich man in Fiddler. If I was is used when something is possible. Oh, this is new to me. If she was feeling sick, or if I was rude to you. Whoa. So, well, that's interesting. So it's even more complicated. So if Batman was a billion, no, that is that what that said? I can't remember. Well, first of all, Batman's not real, so I never mind. Oh God. So what do you think it means that almost all of us have either been inoculated against or had coronavirus? And here's the thing that I keep thinking. You know, I see people, like I'm going to dinner at someone's house tonight, and there'll be at least 4 other people there. And they're all out in the world. They have jobs. They go to work. They're with people. We've all been vaccinated and boosted. We won't be wearing masks. We'll be having fun. But I'm thinking, just because you're vaccinated and masked and done everything right, like Kamala Harris, I still won't pronounce her name right all the time. And now I'm blanking it. Is it Kamala or Kamala? Kamala, right? Damn! It's to have a brain that's drying up. Anyway, now I've thrown myself totally off. Shit. Oh, here's what's scaring me. So, the vice president has no symptoms. And you hear this, those of us who have all this, vaccine in us, we can get it, but you feel fine. Or you feel a little off, but it's nothing you would look into. Well, I was a little off, in the last 3 months, a day here, a day there. So I'm thinking, did I have it? I mean, there was no reason. No one ever said to me, I was with you, and then I'm sorry, I tested positive. That hasn't happened to me. So what I'm wondering is, how many people that you're around now actually might actively have it but they don't know it. And so they give it to you, and then you don't know it. And then you give it to somebody else, and they actually get sick. I mean, here's what I'm just wondering. So it turns out that all the numbers we were being given of how many and the official numbers that were put out are just bullshit. Nobody has a clue. Most Americans have had the virus. And a lot of them have had it more than once. As far as I know, I never have. But now I don't know. I really don't know. How about you? So I can sort of see where people are saying, fuck it. I don't know. I don't know. And he even had Fauci saying that it was over or something. Or the pandemic part of it is essentially we've gone beyond it, which I find not really true. Put them up against the wall and shoot them. Did you know that we're in a sand crisis? I forget where I saw that today. I thought, what? A crisis that I didn't know about? The world is low on sand? You know, after a while, you just think, all right, that's it. I can't. Enough. That's it. Forget it. But we are. We're low on sand. We're taking sand all the time for various things. We use it for a lot of manufacturing, building, and it's having, I don't know, it's really starting to freak the natural environment. We are such destroyers. God almighty. The only little example I can think of is some country in Africa where they've been taking the sand for manufacturing purposes from the bottom of the river. They've taken so much that the river, I don't even understand this, but the river has changed its direction of flow. And so now salt water from the ocean is coming in as opposed to the fresh water going into the ocean. Salt water is coming in, totally destroying that ecosystem. And now all of a sudden the people who live around there are dealing with like saltwater alligators or something. That's the part I remember. All of a sudden there's alligators or crocodiles, and I don't know the difference. Oh. I haven't even touched on the scary news. To me, it was the big news today that Putin is now going to play tough on the economic level. You sanction him, fine. So he's cutting off gas to Poland and Bulgaria, right? That totally rely on Russian gas. Oil. So in many ways, this is going to turn out to be an oil war, as so many of them are. And this, again, is the deal with the devil humanity has made with this particular resource, oil. He's telling them they got to pay up right now in rubles. I don't know how this plays out. I really don't. Because what he's doing is upping it, saying, okay, you want to squeeze my economy? You want to make my people miserable? I can turn around and I'm using, this is my, I got nukes, but I got oil. And we'll see how much these European nations that rely on that spigot that Putin controls. I'm wondering, what about all the other oil companies? The Saudis don't see, hey, here's some opportunity. That's the part I don't get. Or the Americans. Here's some opportunity. This is where all about money and power and who controls. But so we got the Europeans now having to deal with this, what they call blackmail, understandably, that Putin has thrown into this hauling mix. Price of gas already in Europe is so much higher than it is here. You wouldn't know that from all the hemming and hawing. And guys, here's the thing. Here's why the 2022 midterms are going to be hell on us. It's because of gas prices. It's because of Ukraine. It's because of inflation. Coronavirus, that won't be so much a factor. I mean, well, we'll see how the right-wing media machine whips up its folks. But no, it's when you hit Americans in the pocketbook, you pay political price. And I don't know what done about that. Isn't it amazing? So Republicans who fomented this attempt to literally stage a coup d'etat, the first ever in the United States of America, will be rewarded 2 years later with control of the House and perhaps the Senate. And what does that say about American voters? Just asking. What does that say? Always come back to that Chris Potter quote. We are very unserious people living in very serious times. I want to leave you with this, back to Twitter and Musk, because I thought, he's saying that he wants to make it more of a, free-for-all town square, which of course means God help us. As it's pretty much looks like a free-for-all to me now, but, as you know, Trump's been taken off it and all that kind of stuff. So with him, everyone will be back on. And somebody came up, let me credit her, Shira Ovide. You do not know her. She had some questions. She thinks that perhaps this emotionally stunted billionaire might not have thought about. And here they are, because each one of these questions, the doozy. And each one of these questions makes a thoughtful person's head hurt. But here they come. Okay, so you want to make Twitter into a place for unfettered ideas to roam free, as long as they don't violate the law. He has put that caveat in place. So she says, all right, okay, so here are some questions. What if the speech violates the law in Germany or Turkey Pick a country, but not the United States. That's, of course, that question speaks to the reality that Twitter, while it might have originated in the United States by Americans, it is a global megaphone and platform. So, what speech? By whose laws? And another question, what happens when Twitter and governments, America's, China's, Germans, whatever, what happens when Twitter and governments disagree over how to interpret laws of expression, including like the American First Amendment? Who arbitrates that? She goes on, pornography. Now that's legal in the U.S. It's not allowed now on Twitter. But will it be under Musk? And how about Chinese propaganda? And we talked somewhat yesterday about Musk's tight relationship with the Chinese government. What about Chinese propaganda? Is that going to be on Twitter, undercutting accusations of human rights? What's going on with the Uyghurs? The reality is that saying it's going to be an unfettered marketplace sounds good. Sounds pretty uncomplicated. But the thing is that the world is a very complicated place. And one person's right to express themselves might well result in the loss of life of someone else or sow chaos. And when one person's or government's definition of free speech becomes out of bounds on this global platform, how does Elon Musk, with the emotional maturity of an 11-year-old, how does he decide what's okay? How does he determine what consequences are acceptable and what are not? I'll quote an assistant professor of law at St. John's University, Kate Klonick. She says, unrestricted free speech does not mean it's a truer version of free speech. It just means that you're making an island and letting the boys run crazy, like in Lord of the Flies. And that image is so right when Elon Musk is the guy in control. Perfect. The professor goes on to say, if you really want free speech that will not turn us into Lord of the Flies, it is well-regulated speech, a well-regulated speech environment that is the best for free speech. I know that sounds like, what? If it's free speech, how can it be regulated? Well, our Supreme Court has said, of course there has to be limits. Well, all I'm saying is Yow. That's all I'm saying. Yow. Okay, guys, I have no idea what I just subjected you to, but there it is. The meanderings of an old mind. Go smell a lilac bush. I'm telling you, just beyond belief. You'll swoon. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.